Whenever you're ready, Rhonda.
Great. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. So on behalf of the members of Mount St. Vincent University and the Business and Tourism Department, I'd like to begin by thanking you for welcoming us to this annual gathering. As a descendant of British settlers, I acknowledge and pay respect to the Indigenous people of the land from which we host today's meeting, the Lenape and Mi'kmaq people. I live and work on the ancestral, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I also pay respect to the knowledge embedded in the Indigenous custodian of this land and to the elders past, present, and future. I would like to also announce that this session is being recorded. So welcome everyone to the annual 47th Learners and Leaders Conference. We are online again this year, hoping that in the next year we get to return to an in-person gathering. The Mount St. Vincent Business and Tourism Department is hosting this conference today, and there will be 3 sessions. We have our first session up now at 10:30, which is the HR panel, followed at noon by the keynote CEO speaker, Jennifer Angel. And lastly, our last session of the day will be at 1:30, which is a How to Network in a Virtual World presented by Natalie from the Center of Women in Business. So without further ado, let's get started with this first session. We have 4 experts here today to give you some tips and tricks, and they will answer some questions that I will present to them from HR backgrounds. We will have Nick Bignon, who he is the CEO of the Chartered Professional in Human Resources organization. We have Peter Halliday, who is our Group HR Manager for the Enterprise Holdings in Atlantic Canada. We also have Elliot Eisner, who is our Director of HR at Fox Harbor Resort. And we have Blair Thompson, who is our People and Culture Specialist from Grant Thornton. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the questions in random order. So I have my random order set up. And I'm going to ask each of the panelists to briefly introduce yourself and your HR role within your company and a little bit about yourself. So we'll start with Nick.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for a brief introduction, and then I'll go a little further with it. So I am Nick Bignon, as you just heard, and I've had I don't know how much of it was cleverness or luck, probably a combination of both, but I feel like I've had a pretty successful HR career so far. I started as a generalist and worked my way up to a manager. I've always been a professional that sort of tackled many different things. I didn't really specialize too much. Eventually, my HR role kept getting broader and wider, and eventually I ended up being a corporate services director. So I was responsible for the majority of my responsibility was HR and payroll, but then it expanded to include marketing, communications, finance, and that set me up to the role that I'm in today. So I've always been volunteering provincially and nationally with the HR associations across the country, and that expansion where I went beyond HR set me up to be the CEO of the HR association. So I was on the board for about 5 years. We lost our CEO, who moved into actually the academia world, and I stepped off the board, applied for the role, and now I'm doing this full time, which is pretty cool. So in the past, I was contributing to the HR community on a voluntary basis on the side of my desk for evenings and weekends, and now it's my full-time job, which is really awesome. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Over to Peter.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us here today. Definitely excited to talk to all the students. My name is Pete Halliday. I'm with Enterprise Holdings. We oversee the brands of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, National, Alamo, and Discount here in Atlantic Canada. I guess when I want to introduce myself and my role in human resources, the first thing I want to say is I'm a business partner first. Human resources is in my title, but we are part of every function of the business, and that's important. People are our most important aspect of what we do. So we oversee the HR functions for Atlantic Canada. We have a great support team in our corporate office in St. Louis, but here in Atlantic Canada, we oversee talent development, talent acquisition, and then the generalist function. I started in my role in 2007. as a generalist and worked my way through the organization. Interesting to know with Enterprise, we like all of our employees to start in the business itself, renting vehicles. So I started there in 2004 with an HR background from St. Mary's and from a school in Ontario, and I've grown my career since then. We oversee the HR function for all 4 provinces. Excited to talk more and share more of my career and the opportunities as well with Enterprise.
Thank you, Peter. Over to Elliot.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for the invite, and look forward to the conversation today. My background is a little bit different than the rest. My background was I was in the golf business, and Fox Harbor Resort is a smaller resort that has just grown in the last 7-8 years. And with the growth, an opportunity came 2 years ago for needing to focus a little bit more on the HR. And as we grew, obviously the numbers of employees and team members that we had was growing as well. So I was able to go into that, and I've been there for 2 years with the HR side for them, and it's an exciting venture. Every day is different, and which is great. I really enjoy it, and it's challenging, but it's very rewarding at the same time. And it's all about building relationships and being able to share some of that experience that you have. So thanks again for today, and look forward to the rest of the comments and the panel. I mean, the experience that's on the panel is great. So every chance I get to learn, this is a learning experience for myself. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Elliot. And Blair.
Thank you, Rhonda, and hi, everyone. So my name is Blair Thompson. As Rhonda mentioned, I'm a people and culture specialist with Grant Thornton, which is the largest public accounting firm in Atlantic Canada. If others have seen me at last year's conference, for example, my title is a bit different. I've recently transitioned from our recruitment team, which I've spent 6 solid years in, and over 11 years doing campus recruitment, which I know is a big question a lot of people have when I'm on this panel. Thankfully, in my role, I still get a chance to interact with lots of our new hires, and as well in this position, it's a big focus on our existing employee group. I take care of Atlantic Canada, and I work on everything from, could be offer letters, could be employee inquiries, onboarding, payroll is a big part of my role now, benefits. And after you've been somewhere for 11 years, it's, I usually know a little bit of what's gone on. So always being a resource to other people and culture professionals and different colleagues on moving the business needs forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Blair. So that's a great introduction of everyone. So now we're going to get into some of the questions that students will be really interested in. So the first question is to describe what you were looking for in a candidate for a position with your company, such as school, work, volunteer experience, and what gaps do you see students sometimes missing, which they can still address while they are still enrolled in school to capture some of these pieces. So we'll start with Peter for that one.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So the first thing we look for really, there are 6 competencies that we're trying to identify through the interview process. Is there customer service background, sales orientation, work ethic, flexibility, communication style, communication in general, and leadership. Okay, so all of those are very vague. So those competencies, they can be shown in so many different ways. So what we're looking for from our applicants, from our candidates, is that they're able to show those competencies. That's really what we're after. And you can show those in so many different forms. We do not have a specific way for you to show us those, because every person is different. Everybody's coming from different experiences, different cultures, different backgrounds. So they're going to show those competencies all very, very different. And what we're really after when we're asking you to show us those competencies is to show us your passion, right? What are you passionate about? And how can you show us those 6 items through sports, through arts, through the clubs that you belong to at your school? What extracurricular do you have that, don't fall into those categories? Do you volunteer in the community? And if you don't, it's okay. You may not have found your community passion yet. You may not have been introduced to it. So don't beat yourself up if you haven't volunteered for some large organization. But I think the majority of you would have participated in a walk or a run or something that takes you outside that norm. And it's okay to share your volunteerism through that. And obviously, work history is part of a way where you can pull out leadership or communication. And then family. We often forget about the impact your family has on you. And when you're in an interview, those are great places for you to show some of those competencies that people are looking for. For our management trainee program, we are looking for a 4-year degree, and we would love that to be in business. But we have some fantastic employees that have English backgrounds, that have history, that may not fall into your traditional, hey, this is a business student, we're going to hire that person. But what they were able to show us is their passion and their ability to prove those competencies to us. I think I could talk about this for an hour, so I'll just leave it there for now.
Thanks so much, Peter. Over to you, Elliot.
Great question. For us, we do our screening calls, and the biggest thing we're looking for is the ability, the communication, the energy level, being able to work. The whole hiring process, I think, has changed so much, and now is so much of a give and take on both sides. We're looking for, it's like a sales pitch on our side. We're trying to sell what the job is. And at the same time, we want to bring in the best candidate that we possibly can. So, for Fox Harbor, customer service is a big one for us. You're dealing with guests every day. You're dealing with a frontline person. So being able to communicate, being able to show that in an interview with your energy level. A few of the things that we always look for just in the screening side of it is just simply, have you taken the time to do a little bit of research on the position that you're applying for? As simple as Fox Harbor spelled incorrectly in the world of normal, but that's the one thing when you're applying for a position, take the time to actually just go online, do a little bit of research so that you know what you're applying for. Yeah, I'm the same as Peter. I mean, I can go on forever because we see, especially right now, the applications that we're getting, there's a ton of them, but is being able to filter through them and make sure that we're getting the right possible person for the positions that we have available. And talking and still picking up the phone and having a conversation with somebody is the way I think you get to know and understand the relationship a little bit.
That's great. Thank you so much, Elliot. And Blair.
So I guess with how we look at candidates and resumes as we kind of go forward, a big part of our new grad and co-op hiring is people coming from an accounting degree, or not an accounting degree, a business degree with those accounting courses as part of it. We do as well sometimes hire marketing students or other positions that follow it, but a big bulk is that accounting background with their work. And similar, Peter had said, we're looking for rounded candidates. So candidates that can demonstrate in a resume they are not just all school, or they're not just all extracurriculars, which are important, or they're not just all work, which leads to poor marks, for example. So we like to see that rounded candidate. And in terms of that inclusion piece, I think we used to be, sports or extracurricular or, a second job. So it can take many forms. So we want to know by reviewing that resume, and sometimes that comes out through your cover letter as well, that you're doing different things, that you're having different experiences, and that you're all not just one thing. Because when we take on our co-ops or our new graduates, we have a very dynamic organization. Of course, we're looking for people with great accounting marks to have that technical expertise as they grow with the client work, but we're also big in communication and client service. So we want to see that demonstrated as well, from your resume, your cover letter, and as well as our interactions with the students we're looking to hire. And I think Elliot kind of mentioned it as well, but when you're working on that cover letter, your resume, putting that best foot forward, ensuring that that you're addressing it to Blair Thompson at Grant Thornton and not one of my colleagues at another organization's always a great test. And really making that first impression is so important. And that's an active part of our screening tools. Is if we see cover letters addressed to, again, a member of my competition at another firm, you will be screened out automatically. So just, I know that's not the total nature of the question you asked, Rhonda, but always like to just ensure that everyone understands that we do look at them. If it's not the people and culture team or HR, it's definitely going to be the hiring managers once it comes to their review. So many layers with everything. So just ensuring that the best foot forward is put through is very important.
That's great. Thanks so much. And Nick?
Okay, thanks, Rhonda. Every workplace I've been at, I've always had a mantra, and it seemed to work really well for our recruitment. And so this is the inside scoop from any place that I've ever worked at, and I'm sure they've continued this mantra. It's hire for fit, train for skill. Probably what's landed your foot in that interview room is you've ticked off the minimum, the hard skills. On your resume, they found, okay, you've got the minimum skill requirement. Once you're in the interview, they're looking for fit in most places. And again, that's our mantra. And as simple as that is, sometimes people still don't get it. And then I try to boil it down to even simpler mantra, which is hire a smiler. Someone that's like, I don't get it. Okay, here you go, hire a smiler. Someone that comes in and they're smiling, that's probably going to translate to someone that's got a positive demeanor, probably can handle stresses in the workplace or rapid change. It's more of those softer skills. Those are things that workplaces and managers really struggle to impart or to train up on individuals. You'll bring that academic skill, you'll bring that project management certificate, whatever those hard skills are. But if you don't have them, we can fill that gap. That's not a difficult thing for us to do. But to make you a smiler, that's years of therapy. That's something that we probably can't do in the workplace. And the other thing I just want to talk about, it's everyone sort of mentioned this, and I'm just going to use a different word to sort of summarize what everyone is saying. Transferable skills. As a student, you're going to see, they want 1 to 2 years of experience in a team environment. You got to get in the mindset of transferable skills. Okay, so I'm a student. I haven't started my professional career yet, but as everyone has mentioned, I've been on a team, or I volunteered at my church, or I've done this, or I've done that. What transferable skills do I have? They're looking for a team player, someone that's got 1 to 2 years of team experience, collaboration, things like that. Okay, well, in my church, I collaborated on this committee that did this, or I was on a team and we won the championship. So look for transferable skills. They're going to be in places that you wouldn't intuitively think of. And I think I want to say it was Blair who had mentioned give us a call, and I'll give you the secret technique. And the worst way you can do it is, and this is how most people do it, is you're calling because you want the job. And we know it, and that's a call we often, it feels icky. It's not a fun conversation. But if you call me and you say, wow, I'm so fascinated with your organization, can you tell me more? You get me talking, and usually HR professionals or the recruiter or the hiring manager, usually they're very proud of the place they work at. So if you get them talking about where they work and the culture and the organization, tell me more about the mission, the vision, that's like, oh yeah, I could talk about that forever. I come here, I spend at least 40 hours a week here. So I'm very proud to talk about that. And so that cold call, to make it easier, don't make it about the job, but make it about, tell me more. I want to know more about your organization. I want to know more about you. I want to know more about your mission. What are you guys doing with the, corporate, your corporate strategy and things like that? And that will create a nice, warm interaction and a familiarity. So if you end up applying for that job, they've already got a very positive experience with you. And it wasn't under the guise of, I want the job. And I think that I'll wrap it up there. Sorry. Thanks, Rhonda.
No, that's great. Thanks, Nick. Okay, so great advice. My third question is, how should students prepare for an interview, and what advice would you give them surrounding that? So we'll start with Elliot on that one.
Thank you. I guess it goes back to a little bit of what my last comment is just taking the time to do a little bit of research, getting prepared for the interview, taking a breath, and walk into it with the idea that you have everything set, you're ready to go. And then what Nick just finished with is exactly it. Being comfortable and start and ask some questions. And you have your education part of it, you have your experience part of it. Now it's just a matter of taking the time to communicate it. And my advice is just simply believe in what you have, believe in your experience, and then just have your information ready to go and do a little bit of research on the back end before you walk into it.
Great, thanks so much. Over to Blair.
So I guess the first thing I had written down was be yourself, which I think should go without saying, but that's who we truly want to see when we're conducting interviews. I always say that interviews, it's just a snapshot of time, but we really want to know who we're going to be working with at least 40 hours a week once you start, and we really want to have that good synergy for an interview. So I guess just being ready to be open, honest, bring your whole self, if you will. It's the first piece. As well, I always encourage people, especially if you're applying for co-ops and new graduate roles. I know there's a lot of opportunities out there. Something I always did when I was in your shoes was just save that website, copy and paste out that job description so I can refer back to it as I'm preparing for the interview. So just knowing what you've applied for, any questions you have on the opportunity, think about those things. We love to get some interesting questions, after we've gone through our questions for the interview. So it's great to have a few questions prepared. It's great to tailor that. I definitely can tell when candidates have the same list of questions for every employer they're meeting with. So ensuring that you're kind of tailoring into the organization. And keep it, if we're doing like a half-hour interview, don't bring 20 questions you want to ask us. Just because, again, in time, and usually when we're doing student or new grad interviews, we're doing we've booked in days where we have 20 half-hour interviews back to back with a half-hour lunch. So just thinking of that and be mindful of time for the interviewers and for other candidates in your position as you think about those questions you may want to ask. And I just think, being prepared in general to speak about your resume, your marks. I've definitely encountered candidates where I'm like, can you walk me through this volunteer experience? And, they didn't realize it was still on their resume. They just making sure what information you've provided us is also, I think, valuable, important to ensure that we have a good exchange once it comes to the interview.
That's excellent. Thanks for sharing. Nick, you're up next.
Okay, thank you. I just have to remember to I might mute myself. I'm going to take a different approach because I suspect that we probably all have the same answer for this, and hopefully this is memorable because I'll take a weird angle. It's kind of like dating. There's there's a piece of it as a recruiter or hiring manager. Sadly, you know, you might, I don't know, this might be a bit extreme, but you might have someone that's totally competent and capable, and you should be considering them, but they come across as so desperate for the job that I think subconsciously something happens. And I know in an interview where I've got someone that's confident and they're leaving me with the impression that, like, gosh darn, you'd be so lucky to have me. That actually works. It's like I said, in a dating thing, it's almost that playing hard to get. But it's not really like date. It's not playing hard to get. It's just a different mindset. You have to walk into that room and you do have to like own that belief that they would be so lucky to have you. You know, and it's not the reverse, like, please, please, please give me the job. No, like, you'd be so lucky to have me because I've got these gosh darn fantastic skills and I would be great in your organization. I understand your organization. So I want to remind people, and I'll just leave it at this last comment. The interview is a two-way street. You know, I think gone are the days where you showed up and you were desperate and you got the job, but you're showing up now and you're interviewing the organization. You don't want to be stuck in a place where your passions and your interests don't align with the organization. You know, if you love being outdoors and you love the planet, you're going to struggle working at an oil and gas company. So it's a two-way interview, right? Show up confident of who you are, you're interviewing them, and have that mindset. They'd be lucky to have you.
Thanks so much. That was a great approach. Peter, you're up next.
Yeah, thanks. And listen, there's nothing that I can say that people haven't already. And I haven't dated for a while, so I'm assuming it's still the same as what Nick's describing there. But just like what others have said, know about the company, know about the specific role and the expectations. You know, if you're looking for a flexible work schedule and that's just not available in that role, so know that your needs and your desires as a person will match what that job can do for you. Be proud of who you are, right? You are the product of years and years of all sorts of weird and interesting interactions with people and family and cultures and travel, and be proud of that and showcase yourself. The one thing I will add is a lot of our applicants don't actually ask for the job. Right? They'll go through the process and they won't close. They won't close by saying, hey, is there anything that we've discussed that you need more clarity on? Or is there any reason why I'm not the best person for this job? And then just your mouth goes quiet and you wait for the feedback. And if that feedback's either going to be, no, thank you, I enjoyed our conversation, or you will go into further conversation where you will either take that feedback with you as a learning opportunity, or you'll be able to clarify something that you may have missed or overstepped in the interview. So if that's the job you want, go in, be confident, yes, but ask for the job. And I think practicing a close, having that close ready to go at the end is important, especially if it's in, well, any job actually. It doesn't have to be a sales role, but it should be, if that's the job you're looking for. I think at the end of it, you do need to let them know, I want this job. Why am I not the best person for it?
Oh, that's excellent advice. Thank you so much. All right, we're on to our fourth question, which is, how has COVID-19 impacted your HR strategies? And, you know, we've been dealing with this COVID-19 for 22 and a half months-ish now in HRM and Maritimes in general, because it was around mid-March 2020. And maybe it's the impact has changed and evolved over the last 22 and a half months. So maybe that's something that you can discuss. So we are going to start with Blair.
I think our strategy with COVID-19 is change management. And I think being constantly evolving and thinking and being purposeful about COVID-19. There's, you know, so many things that we have, I guess, changed and done and rechanged again as part of things to ensure, you know, our focus is really on the health and safety of our colleagues. So I think with that is a big focus now, or even more of a focus now, on change management and being able to roll with changes that that especially come we have to see with Omicron right now has been a hot topic. As well, I think in terms of a strategy is just a conversation around, working from home, the hybrid work model, and what that's going to look like in the future, and how that will affect our teams and our offices. It's a big question. So working towards that and keeping that communication angle, I think, has been really important, ensuring that when we were all 100% from home in 2020, ensuring that we were able to keep up with communication, ensuring that no one's left behind has been a really important thing for us, because we have, a very mixed generational workforce. We have, people with families. We have, single people. We have people with, elder childcare issues. So ensuring that we're all having that conversation together, that people are interacting and understanding where someone's at during this pandemic is really important to ensure that we can all move forward and keep going together. So I think, communication, change management, and just really learning to be flexible has been big parts of our strategies. We keep moving forward with the pandemic.
That's great. Thank you, Blair. Nick.
Okay. So, I think there's so much going on, and again, in fear of repeating what others will say, there's definitely a lot of work that HR professionals are doing around figuring out their organizations, the future of work. So, like just mentioned now, the hybrid workplace, but long before the COVID, they were already exploring the 4-day work week. The government has been putting through legislation on the right to disconnect. So definitely trying to figure out that balance and trying to ensure people are engaged and enjoying the workplace. I mean, you've probably heard about the Great Resignation, as they're famously calling it down in the US, where people have said, they were happy before COVID, and then they were laid off, or they're working at home, and then they realize, I hate working for the man 40 hours a week. This is awful. And having a nice secure job. I'd much rather open up a microbrewery and work 200 hours a week and have no security. I could lose everything on the drop of a hat. So it's trying to figure out now, how do we ensure those people find it rewarding and find that balance of, and I think one thing that a lot of organizations, so they're figuring that out, but I think the one thing that many of us haven't figured out is the culture piece. Culture is so important to organizations. And I know a lot of HR professionals are struggling with how do you impart this culture, maintain this culture, whatever that culture may be, when everyone's not at the workplace. It's so much easier when it's physical. You can put posters up. You have a nice water cooler chat. Does your CEO go to the cafeteria and have lunch with everyone? And you lose those things in the virtual world. So I know that's a big priority for organizations and HR professionals. How do we keep our culture in the virtual world? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And over to Peter.
Sorry, I was on mute. Rookie mistake. Hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. I think I owe people money being the first one to do that. So that great segue into culture, because that was our biggest concern, our business model. We have 65 individual operations across Atlantic Canada. And a big part of our culture was bringing people together, talent development. It was getting out and celebrating success at a restaurant with 50 to 400 people. We were worried about that part of our culture struggling, and what does that look like in a virtual world? So we focused on that. We created more touch points, especially for new hire classes that would be here, and we would take them out and get them to introduce themselves to senior leadership, and they would now grow this bond. Well, how are we going to do that in a virtual world? And thankfully, adding those touch points, getting more people involved, within restrictions and guidelines, getting out to our team more as small groups, heading to our team in St. John, New Brunswick, and taking that small group out if it met restrictions. So yeah, being flexible that way. We also found that, we had an opportunity to further support our employees, instilling our own COVID emergency time off if they needed time off away from the office because they were forced into isolation or close contact. That's outside of their expectations. So they shouldn't have to use their paid time off in order to support that. So our company was able to, help support our employees further. So I think when they saw us doing things like that, supporting our team, being more flexible with hours, and really pushing the virtual engagement piece, I think overall our culture has remained quite good and positive, but it did require more work from more people and higher touch points as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Peter. And Elliot.
For us, the resort, I still remember that the whole conversation when we first started with COVID and working and seeing the whole NBA shut down and all the sports teams start to shut, and you go, what does this mean? How does this work? And, March the 12th, we sent everybody home that we had at the resort and started this whole working from home community and how do you, and just the HR side of it was just, how does that work? What do the people need to get home? What do they need to have when they get there? The first and foremost, we were lucky in the sense that safety was number one. So getting everybody moved out, getting them home, getting them set up and in an office. And I think not knowing if it was going to be a week or 2 weeks. And the next thing we do our, engage, say, communication. We have them on, we're doing Zoom calls weekly and just trying, we didn't even talk business. It was just simply talking about how are they making out, like life and, can we help you? Is there anything that we can do? And then all of a sudden we transition back into the resort opening and then when we did that, how do you make your team members safe again? How do you bring them back to a resort and have them be safe? And how do we invite our guests and members back in and have them be safe? So the whole thing was just, going, working your way through. There was no right or wrong way, I guess, to do it. It was just kind of as you saw fit that we needed to do, that's what we did. So since then, going forward, the whole, like everybody else has mentioned, the panel here is, communication has been the biggest one for us. Is making sure that we communicate with our team. If we have people that are, right away, we said, if you don't feel well, stay home. And once we did that, now we made a point of being able to communicate with them and follow up and just check on them. This whole thing with COVID, I think, has taught us a few things. Is you got to rely on the people around you when you're stuck in isolation and you need groceries. It's the people that are around that can help you. So it's becoming human. It's trying to, the same thing we talked about earlier. When you're hiring, you're looking for somebody that has these qualities of being able to do, help people out and team members and team builders. And that's what we were doing. The flex schedules is another one. We set it up so that we have flex schedules for people, healthcare or daycare being a tough one with having a child that we weren't able to send or whatever the problem was. So we were able to do that in our departments so that we help them out with that. And then the other side of it is the time off, like Peter mentioned. Just vaccinations. Hey, listen, we look after your vaccination time. So you didn't lose wages because you went to get vaccinated. We paid for them to go do that. It's just trying to come up with whatever you could do to support them and keep them safe at the same time. So it's been challenging. I think all three would say that. COVID has definitely been very challenging, but at the same time, I think what it's done is it's forced a lot of us to start thinking outside the box where we were so stagnant and you go to work, you have to go in 40 hours a week and you got to be in the office. Well, you don't have to anymore. And I think the companies are starting to understand that. And I know with Fox Harbor, it's taken some time, but we have got to the point where we are able to understand that by me not being in the office, I'm able to accomplish the day-to-day jobs that I need to get done, which I was a big component of pushing prior to COVID. And COVID has just really kind of pushed my bosses to understand that that is doable.
That's great. Thanks so much. Yeah, I think there has been a lot of trepidation, and then it varies from industry to industry, what's going to work for each organization, right? Like there's got to be some people there's got to be some people that can work from home and that sort of thing. So finding that balance is going to be important. So my next question, which will probably be my last one in order for me to allow some questions if there's any at the end, is where do you see opportunities for jobs in your organization over the next 2 to 4 years? And once students or new hires get their foot in the door, they want to progress their careers. They want to look at where there's possibilities for advancement over the course of maybe a 5-year plan that they have for themselves. And what does that career progression look like in your organization? And what advice would you give students, new hires, new graduates, with respect to wanting to aspire to climb the company or corporate ladder? So we'll start with Nick on that one.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. It's an interesting time, and I do expect this to continue for a while, but in particular, I mean, generally, it's a seller's market right now, as I'm sure you've heard. The jobs are there, and HR jobs especially, it is so ridiculously hot. There's ample jobs out there. So just I'm going to share 2 right now that continue to, I see, get reposted again and again. And these are jobs that 10, 15 years ago, I would have just died to get. But Nova Scotia Power keeps posting an HR manager position, and I've seen them post it 2 or 3 times now. Irving's got this HR director position, and I've seen it come up. That one, I think, has been out there for, I don't know, 6 to 7 months or something. People are struggling to hire. So, you know, the job opportunities, they're there. And will they be there in the next 2 to 4 years? I think so. And it's all about being able to set yourself up to be able to it's not like they're not getting applicants, they're not getting qualified applicants. So if you can set yourself up to be a qualified applicant, your competition might be very, very small. And a little pet peeve of mine, I hate the word company ladder or corporate, career ladder. The term that you might hear some HR professionals use, and I certainly use, is career lattice. It's gone. I think gone are the days. It was the 50s, 60s where you worked at one desk and you put your time in and you got rewarded for, you've been sitting at that desk for 5 years and you get rewarded. You move up to, you went from junior manager to regular manager to senior manager. My opinion, I think that's flawed. It's very slow, and most of us are too ambitious, or life's too short to go that path. So career lattice is a better mindset where you're approaching, maybe you're junior manager and you approach your boss and you say, oh, I see there's a project over there, not part of my remit at all, but gosh, that looks fascinating. Can I have a stretch opportunity? Could I be seconded to that department, or could I play some sort of a role? And you take advantage of these stretch opportunities, and they're not directly straight up. It might mean jumping ship. You might be in the HR department, but there's finances going through. Maybe they're involved in something that overlaps with HR. Maybe it overlaps with compensation or something. Move over to finance, get that experience. And then when you come back, you're exponentially more valuable to everyone. And your experience, I mean, you can only gain more information by being in another department and new ways of doing things. So get out there, get those experiences. Don't just stay pigeonholed and, unless, I mean, that's not for everyone, unless that on day 1 of your career and day 10,000 when you retire, you want to be a recruiter. And that's what you want to be your entire career. And that's fine. most of us do want to expand our experiences. And so don't think a career ladder where you're going straight up and straight down. Well, hopefully just straight up. But instead a career ladder is where you're pivoting. And it might mean sometimes you take a downward step. You might be an HR manager, but to shift over to finance to get that different experience, maybe it's not appropriate to be a finance manager. You have to become a finance associate or something. And it's a temporary step down so that you can make a big leap forward in the future. Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Nick. And up next is Peter.
Okay, successfully unmuted myself, I believe. Just with respect to time and the other the possibility for questions, I'll be very quick. We paused hiring, from April 2020, but we're back. We are hiring. We're looking for incredible, strange, weird people, and we love the people that we're seeing. We hire 90% of all of our employees through the management trainee program. That has a very well-defined, very structured career path. But like Nick was saying, there's opportunities to put your hand up and jump off that path and check out another path, whether that's in accounting, marketing, sales, human resources, whatever it might be. My advice, though, is to always be promotable. Whatever role you're currently in, be the one that's being recognized. Put your hand up for opportunities. And be ready when your dream opportunity comes up. And if that means you're taking detours off of that path now and then, that's completely fine. It will add value to yourself. But yeah, just be ready for opportunity and don't be afraid to put your hand up and get out of your comfort zone a little bit. If you can see this QR code, all of our opportunities are listed there. Check it out. And if you can't, I'll make sure Rhonda has it for you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. And Elliot.
I need Peter's plug there. So we have lots of opportunities. The same. I mean, it's a seller's market. Yeah, we have so many different opportunities that are coming about in Fox Harbor every day. We're in the midst of now trying to hire for the season. There's not only seasonal positions, but now we're getting into full-time, year-round positions. I guess to kind of echo both sides is just the being out there, putting yourself outside your comfort zone, maybe taking a position with Fox Harbor or whoever that's maybe not the ideal one that you're looking for, or it is the ideal one and you get into it and you see that there's another opportunity that's going to be coming up and taking it and moving on. As far as the Fox Harbor goes, we're 21 years into this as a resort, and we're growing like crazy. We're in the midst of building a convention center that's going to open in May, the end of May, 1st of June. A whole different part of business for us. And at the same time, we're building another 9 holes. So there's just so much excitement around the property, and with that comes opportunities for positions. And we look forward to any opportunity, any resumes, or anybody that's looking for an opportunity to come work. We're definitely looking for that. So thanks again.
Thank you, Elliot. And Blair.
I guess just to echo everyone, lots of opportunities everywhere. If you want to check out Grant Thornton opportunities, you can look at discoveryourpurple.ca. But aside from that, I think, in general, my advice to people is continue to diversify your skill set, whether that's in the line of business you're currently in, such as accounting or people and culture, and just thinking of what skills you want to do or want to have in the future. It really has variated during this pandemic. In March of 2021 or 2020, sorry, I can't even keep track of the years in this pandemic. We stopped hiring similar to other organizations if recruiters were being laid off from companies. Now, almost 2 years later, I get at least one LinkedIn in-mail asking me to join company XYZ, and what a fantastic opportunity they have there to be a recruiter, be in people and culture. So you just never know how it's going to variate. So just being mindful that The environment we live in can change and alter from year to year, and being ready. Part of the reason why I, changed jobs this year was to just kind of expand my skill set again and diversify. And I'm 34 and I'm still figuring out, what I want to be when I grow up. So I think taking those opportunities, I think someone else on the panel had said about taking on different projects, looking for those opportunities. The reason why I'm in this role today is because I was able to do a half a month opportunity doing a similar thing, and that's what transitioned me into this role today. So asking, especially with your career progression, asking that question with your people manager and talking about what you think you want to do in the future. If you're looking to get promoted in your group, put that on the table. People are not mind readers. They can't assume. If you want something, ask them, remind them, talk about a way to plan to get there. That clear communication is really key. Many companies like ours at Grant Thornton, we have like a set promotion timeline every year, and you want to make sure that you're able to be captured in that if you are interested. So again, talk with your managers if you are looking for that succession and next steps in your chosen career.
That's great. Thanks so much, Blair. And, I just want to add to that because I started my career with Imperial Oil back in 1994 when I graduated from Mount St. Vincent. And in the 9 years I was there, I think I worked in 7 different departments. I got opportunities to fill in, pick up Saturday shifts in the winter when we were super busy in different departments that I didn't work in. So my progression to allow me to go from credit to sales and marketing and pricing models, and then into service and sales, and then into finally business controls, which then led to my accounting designation, was good. And I had such a well-rounded experience, and it gave me a lot of transferable skills to go anywhere, which was great. So I would like to open it up for questions. So maybe Jennifer, if you could open the chat window in case anyone had some questions, and we can do about 5 minutes of that, I guess, or 6 minutes. So I think that's open if anyone has any questions. So I have one here. When doing an interview, is it better to mention if you have a child, children, or just wait until after if you get the job? Is it a turnoff for some employers? So maybe I'll just pick a person. Peter.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And you can have children, that's a great example, but there are so many other things that people are afraid of mentioning. Will that turn an employer off? Does it scare them about what needs you may have? And I can only speak for our organization. I won't think about others because, for us, we want the best person, and that best person comes with so many different strange and exciting and weird things that make them who they are. And a lot of that has to do with their family and their experiences and cultures. And the more that we can share and support that, regardless of what it is, I think the more incredible diversity of thought that we have when we're approaching something as simple as operating a rental car business or any business. If you have all of the same people looking at the same thing, drawing on the same backgrounds, you're going to be this boring, maybe successful, but boring company. But if you have all these strange viewpoints and interesting perspectives, I think that's really where the success in a business comes from. And you'll be able to reach a broader target as well. So for enterprise, we want you. We're not going to ask about anything, but if you want to share, God love you, go for it, and it will not scare us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Peter. I thought I was on mute for a second.
Rhonda, I agree with everything Pete said. And I just want to go back to that mindset of it's a two-way interview. Do you want to work for someone that has a problem with you having a child?
Yeah,
right? So ask yourself that.
Okay, my next question, and I'm going to actually give this one to you, Nick. How to handle rejection in interviews and how to take it positively.
Yeah, I think that happens quite often. So I think that's an easy answer for me anyway. So my mindset is, well, that was great experience. You know, that was a good practice, and it wasn't meant to be. So the next opportunity that I have, I mean, it's one thing when you role play with a spouse or a classmate or something in an interview. It's a whole nother when you actually do the real thing. So just consider it good practice. It wasn't meant to be.
Thank you. And then what was a memorable question you've been asked during an interview? I'll ask that one of Elliot.
I don't know if I'm the right person for that question. It's been it's been a while since I've done an interview, like for myself. But as far as like some of the people that I've interviewed recently, geez, it's a tough question. I guess, you know, like there's nothing that stands out. It's for us where we are located, you know, it's, you know, we get questions about just locations, you know, what is there around us? Memorable question that I've been asked.
That's a tough one.
It stands out as far as like off the charts. I think now it's just, like, I hear the same questions, more to do with just, you know, what is it, the resort, where it's at, how does it work as far as moving up, places to stay, what's in the area. Yeah.
I've heard a couple strange ones, if I can help.
Please do.
So I know there's some odd questions I've been asked where they don't expect you to know the answer, and they just want to see how you can think on your toes. So they might ask a question like, why is a tennis ball fuzzy? It's a ridiculous question. One that they don't expect you to actually know the answer, but just to have fun with it and make up a fake answer. Or why is a manhole cover round? Most people don't know that. And again, they don't want you to know it. They just want to see you think on your toes.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much.
I have the answers if you want.
Thanks, Nick.
I have another one here that says, what role does a candidate's or employee's social media play in the recruitment and selection decision for your organization? And I think that's a really good one. So I'll toss that one over to Blair.
That's a really good question. And I think it obviously depends on the organization. In our world, we are working directly with clients. So of course, if our employees, or potential employees are, you know, saying things on social media that could be in relation to one of our clients, that is a question mark. I personally, and most recruiters, I guess depends on their load, I don't have time to go through everyone's social medias to check for anything, but you may need to watch out for hiring managers who might have a smaller pool to look at. So usually, you know, we all, you know, expect people to have social media. We encourage you to keep it private, but it doesn't play like a huge factor, you know, in terms of our recruitment decision making.
All right, thank you. And then we have a question here that says, we are all experiencing the pandemic one way or another. As an HR manager specialist, do you find that you are looking for different skill set from applicants now post-COVID as opposed to prior COVID? I'll throw that one to Nick. You've been in HR.
No, that's a great question, and one I haven't really considered. So, geez, I'm really thinking on my toes here. Yeah, I guess someone that can embrace technology is going to be a bit more important. You know, some of the applications that we use more than ever now, like Teams or Zoom, and you know, all the other different platforms. I guess that would be more valuable now. And I guess if I think about one of the major issues that this has caused is mental health, I think more than ever, I'd want to hire a smiler. That person's going to be able to figure out the frustrations of not being able to connect, you know, with the technology. And things are moving so fast now that people's needs for adaptability is just, you know, it's just through the roof. Like things that I think, I used to work at a workplace, and they were exploring remote work. And I think they were forecasting it was going to take 3 or 4 years to get it off the ground. And then COVID hit and they did it in 2 weeks. And that's a huge change for staff. So if I'm hiring someone, I probably want to see that they can adapt to change very, very rapidly. Thanks, Rhonda.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to just do 2 more quick questions and then I have to close it off. So my apologies to any of the students that had questions up there. I'm trying to do them in the order that they came or that were most relevant. I think that a lot of people may have in their head. One of the things was sometimes during interviews in front of a panel of professionals. So like if you walk in and there's like 4 or 5 people, candidates get anxious. And I would probably be one of those. All of us probably would be at some level. Any tips on how to tackle some of that anxiety and nervousness that you have when you enter a room like that? Peter. Sorry.
Thanks for the question. And that's great. I think definitely the first time you walk into the room and your first experience with a panel, you will feel that anxiety or nervousness. And I think afterwards, you're just building upon your comfort with future panel interviews. But I guess the way, as being part of a panel, the way that I enjoy those interactions is definitely when I'm asking the question that the candidate's making eye contact with me as they're responding, but also that they're comfortable enough to look around the room and make eye contact and get those nods from the people in the room that are there with them as well. And honestly, once you experience your first panel, you really are just answering that one person and then reconfirming your points with the other people that are there. Again, from my opinion only, just take a deep breath and sit down and enjoy the experience, because it definitely is one that once you've done one, you can say that you've done it and you loved it, you hated it, or you're going to improve upon that. So I wouldn't stress too much about the interview and how many people are there, but eye contact and body posture and those little pieces of etiquette, I think, are important to addressing those on the panel.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And my last one that I think is really interesting and really relevant is, what should be the right answer if they ask you for your expected salary? And I always found that question challenging. I didn't go through a lot of interviews in my life, to be quite honest. I worked for Imperial Oil and then I was an entrepreneur and now I'm here. But that's an interesting question. So I don't know, and I'm going to throw that out there. Does anyone ask that question in their interviews? I guess would be of the people that are here. Do you ask that question, or is there already a preset salary? So Nick's nodding.
Yeah, I think very recently, I'm of the mindset we should all be sharing. If we have a job available, I'm a big fan of putting it out there on the job posting so they know right off the get-go. Not everyone's doing that. But technology has made it so much easier to answer that question more than ever. So I think, Rhonda, when you and I were back in the day when we were looking for jobs, that information was very difficult to get. But now there's websites like Glassdoor, there's salary wizards online. You can very quickly figure out what the range is and, give an educated guess. So it's not as difficult to do. And I guess the other piece too is, as your career progresses, and you gain more confidence, you do have an amount it's this or nothing, it's this or I'm out. That's a bit more difficult when you're just graduating. You don't want to undersell yourself, but if you're in that spot, you can do some digging. Glassdoor has like information on how their pension structured, how their bonus is structured. I mean, you'll have all the insight in the world that you'll need to answer that intelligently.
So just to jump in, we changed in the last, we were the same. We never posted it. We always kind of had it. Just in the last year and a half, 2 years of job postings for us, we put it out there. We post it the starting and negotiable after that. But there's, that question, Ron, has been around forever. We all kind of just hid behind it. We weren't sure to ask it. We didn't know if we had the confidence to ask it. You know what? It is what it is. It's there, and we're here to try to hire people. And why is it that we're hiding from it? So the wage is the wage. We've put it there. We've posted on our job postings, and it just takes the question out of play. So when you're doing the interview when we start, just even the simple, screening questions, screening part of it, yeah, we bring it up, we talk about it. Like, let's have it out. And if we are in the ballpark, we're in the ballpark. If we're not in the ballpark, then, you know, what is it that you'd like to see? And can we get there? You know, like, maybe we can't get there. At least we're having that, instead of back in my day, we would sit there and say, well, you know, second interview, can I ask what we're gonna be paid? Like, you know, this way it's just, it's there.
Yeah, it's a hard one because people are like, have always been ingrained in them, like, don't ask about that salary. But it does, you know, to have a bit more transparency, I think is relevant, especially in today's market. You may see more of that as you progress through your career, I think, and as you get up into higher level jobs where things are not posted necessarily when you're getting into more executive positions and stuff, and they may pose that question. I met with an HR firm in Halifax a few years ago. I was getting some career coaching and stuff done there. But I actually went in after I started part-time teaching at the Mount, and they had sent me out a request looking for students for on the ground for a new facility that was opening here in HRM. And I went in to meet with them, and then they started questioning me about taking one of the higher level roles. And I was like, no, I don't want a job. But they had asked me, like, what would you be expecting for salary? And of course I rhymed out some number, and they're like, that's a little low. And I was like, okay. So that's where kind of some of that stuff comes in. They said, well, we would think that you would want at least this. And I was like, okay, obviously I'm selling myself short. So that is a very relevant question, because you don't want to sell yourself short, but you also don't want to seem like you're asking for like 20,000 more than that's relevant for what your level of expertise is at this point in your career. So I want to thank everyone for being on the panel today. It was great. You've provided such great information for our students, and like, I love that they were asking questions and we had time to do this. And I'm sorry for any of those that I didn't get time to fully address, because we are at a time, we have another speaker at 12. But I want to thank Nick, Blair, Elliot, and Pete for coming today and sharing this with the students. And I want to like recommend that, you know, you reach out to me if you like want to get that QR code or want to have that link for Grant Thornton that they've mentioned, or the links for Fox Harbor. And then if Nick has anything, he can share it with me as well. And I wish you all the best, and thank you for attending the panel today.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how fast she's. And I think we can stop recording as well now.